Morning, everyone. We're going to get started. We have established a quorum. Okay. All right. Council President in training. All right. All the guests and visitors will retire behind the rail. We'll get started now. Thank you very much. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Sister Elise Betts of the Sisters of St. Francis of Philadelphia. She is here today as the guest of Councilman O'Brien. I would ask all members and guests, please rise.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the councilman for the invitation to come to pray with you. When I got the invitation, I tried to think, if I were one of you, council persons, what would I want to say? And that's where I'm coming from. I hope it's what you'd like to say, too. Before I begin, let's just take a minute to remember the loving presence that surrounds all of us at this very moment. And let's remember the people at home first, that God would bless them today because they've helped us to be here, to be able to do this job that we're trying to do. So we want them to have a happy, holy, pleasant day. And the next, I wanted you to consider words that mean a whole lot to me. They're the words of our Mother Frances Bachman, who founded my community. At the time that she said them, she was a married woman who was pregnant, whose husband was killed in an accident. She was pregnant with her fourth child, so she had a lot of faith. And her words were, no risk, no gain. So our prayer, we ask for the courage to risk speaking the truth as we know it. We ask for the courage to risk listening to another who has an opinion different from ours. We ask for the courage to risk changing our minds if we gain new insights. We ask for the courage to risk going the extra mile to bring about consensus. We ask that we be respectful and patient with one another, as we hope the others will be with us. And finally, we need to remind ourselves that our imperfect efforts will be fruitful if our greatest desire is to bring about peace and prosperity to the people of our city. And remember that this loving presence is always with us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Sister, for those inspiring words. Councilman Biddies. Yeah, let's take it off. Mike. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. The next order of business is the approval of the journal. Next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting on Thursday, October 8th, 2015, and the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, October 8th, 2015 be approved.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded, and properly the journal of the meeting of Thursday, October 8th, 2015 stands approved. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and the journal is approved. The next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the majority, there are no requests today.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair now recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are no requests for leave of absence on behalf of the Republicans, but I would like to mention Councilman O has left the chambers temporarily, but he will be back.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to dispense with the regular order of business, and I would like to welcome and I would like to thank everyone who has taken time out of their busy day to come down and witness their government in action. We truly appreciate the fact that you feel enough about us that you come down and see us do the democracy in action. So I really appreciate you coming down today, and we hope you really enjoy this so much so that you come back again. At this time, Chair would like to recognize Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, who will present a resolution on my behalf recognizing the Fair Trade Philadelphia. Would Yoko Barnes and those accompanying her please join the Councilwoman at the podium? And joining Councilwoman Brown, we have Councilman William Greenlee.
Councilwoman.
And we also have Councilwoman Blackwell and Councilwoman Keona Sanchez and Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you also for an opportunity to represent you on your behalf for this resolution, given, as you well know, my growing interest in the environment and sustainability, as there's a lot to learn about it. And this morning we are recognizing and commending Fair Trade Philadelphia for its commitment to economic equality for workers and sustainable production practices for the environment.
Whereas the Fair Trade Philadelphia is a group of citizens who have come together to promote fair trade in the city of Philadelphia, and whereas fair trade is a market-based economic system through which workers, artisans, and farmers are paid a living wage for their work, and producers and farmers use environmentally sustainable production and farming practices, and
Whereas fair trade is an approach to business and to develop based on dialogue, transparency, and respect for those seeking to create greater equity in the international trade system. And whereas fair trade supports farmers and craftspersons who are socially and economically marginalized. Those producers lack economic opportunity and often face steep hurdles in finding markets and customers for their goods. And
whereas at the core of the fair trade model is a direct, cooperative, and in-depth relationship between buyers and sellers that keeps all the principles of fair trade at the forefront. And whereas fairly traded clothing, coffee, tea, food, furniture, housewares, jewelry, and many other products are available from fair trade organizations located here and abroad. And
whereas fairly traded goods result in stronger communities, financial resources for nutrition and healthcare costs, empowerment of the poor, especially women, and protection of the environment. And whereas a fair trade city, quote unquote, is one that encourages the purchase of fair trade certified products by city agencies, city contractors, and publicizes its fair trade policy through the media and city websites. Now, therefore,
be it resolved that the Philadelphia City Council hereby recognizes and commends the Fair Trade Philadelphia for its efforts to increase consumer awareness and commitment to poor farming communities and artisans around the world, and further encourages the Office of Sustainability and the Department of Procurement to support and practice the policies of fair trade and to promote fair trade practices among local businesses and organizations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that an engrossed copy of this resolution will be presented to the representatives here of Fair Trade Philadelphia as a sincere sentiment of City Council's legislative body. This was introduced by our President, Darrell Clark, and supported, of course, by all members of the Philadelphia City Council. Let's salute Fair Trade Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Ms. Barnes for remarks. You're welcome. Please proceed.
Dear Council President, Council persons, and friends, today it is a good day for Karim. When this picture was taken 2 years ago, Karim was 9. He was working in a gold mine in Burkina Faso. He was asked of his dream. He said, I want to make money by working hard so that I no longer have to do this anymore. But as we all know, no matter how hard he works, he would not be able to get out of the mine unless the rest of us work just as hard to bring positive changes to the system that forces millions of children like Karim to work in mines, banana fields, cocoa plantations, garment factories, and places even worse, often under horrendous, hazardous conditions. But thanks to citizens of Philadelphia and you, City Council, Philadelphia is now joining a global movement of more than 2,000 towns and promising to do our part to promote fair trade. What is fair trade? If it is a fair trade certified product, workers and farmers earn fair wages under safe conditions and no child labor through environmentally sustainable practices. And also, workers themselves make a decision on how the money should be spent on healthcare, on schools, to improve their lives and fight the root causes of poverty. Philadelphia has a tradition of making history on fairness. In 19th century, Quakers set fair prices, and in 1980s, the first fair trade certified coffee was served in the United States at Judy Wick's White Dog Cafe in Westfield. And recently, Philadelphia has made remarkable progress in greening the city with bike paths, bike rentals, beautiful walkable parks, and we all citizens benefit from cleaner air, and this impact goes far beyond the city limits. And for consumers, now we know we are not in the dark. We can make a difference. And Philadelphia today earned the distinction of making our city the second largest fair trade city in the US after Chicago. So now, yes. So please look at faces in the podium who are passionate about fair trade in the region. And especially Media, Pennsylvania, the first America's first fair trade town. People, please either raise your hands or something so that we can recognize you. In 2006, that when hardly anyone knew the word fair trade or what it meant. And fortunately for us, Fair Trade Philadelphia, they took us under their wings. So absolutely, without them, we would not be standing here today. Thank you. Now our group, the Fair Trade Philadelphia, I wish I could tell all the stories of the people behind me, but I can't. But Brian, a father of two, who can make the impossible possible. And now he's a Fair Trade Fellow, Mid-Atlantic Fellow, so he works beyond the city limit. And Bhavna, who has seen women's fair trade cooperative back in India, her homeland. She is a talented artist who uses her talent for our cause, and she is an expectant mother. And I myself, a retired teacher, a grandmother of 3. So, thank you, City Council, for your openness in recognizing us and in giving us the permanent platform where citizens can come and work with procurement offices to bring concrete changes that will benefit people in the city and beyond. And today is a very good day for first Karim, but also for Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you. Council will be at ease. Thank you very much. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Tasco, who will present a resolution acknowledging Marion Johnson. With Ms. Johnson and those accompanying her, please join the Councilwoman at the podium. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you. While they're coming forward, let me acknowledge that Lois Fernandez, founder of Odunde, is here, and we have to recognize such a great woman to our Philadelphia.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilwoman. Yeah, you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. Today is a very sad day for all of us in City Council, as well as all of the residents of the 9th Councilmatic District. 28 years ago, when I was recruited to be a candidate to run for City Council, I was introduced to a young woman who was a committee person in the 49th Ward. And even though her ward leader was also a candidate for the 9th Councilmatic District, she chose to work with me to achieve the goal to become councilwoman from the 9th District. We rang every doorbell in the 49th Ward. She had me in the rain, the snow, or whatever. I couldn't say no to a Saturday. She has been a staunch supporter of her community. She has been a real friend to me. She tried to leave before, and I threatened her. I said, you can't go anywhere, but we're now sort of transitioning out together. She just a few months before me. But I wanted to bring her in and say thank you, Marion Johnson, for all the 27 years you've given to the 9th Councilmatic District and the city of Philadelphia. She is joined here this morning by her family. They have been they're extraordinary. I have not known a family so tight and so together. They celebrate everybody's birthday. They go on trips. It's a model family. And Marion Johnson is the core. She keeps them all together. And I'm so proud that she has become the zoning czar in the city of Philadelphia. Everybody knows that. Let's give her a big round of applause. So when I hired her, I said, you're going to be in charge of zoning. She said, zoning? I don't know anything about zoning. But she became the expert, and she challenged the lawyers toe-to-toe before the zoning board. And she gained the respect of those individuals who went before the zoning board to challenge issues in my district, in the 9th District. And so I'm proud, Marion Johnson, that we're here today to say thank you for the service you've given to this city, and also for the service you've given in protecting the citizens in the 9th Councilmatic District. They love you. She goes on site visits. She takes the staff with her, Eric with her, and she just knows when she goes before the zoning board, she's well aware of what's happening with an issue before the zoning board. So we thank you for your loyalty and your diligence, your expertise, and just for being a wonderful person. So whereas for over 27 years, since the day Marion B. Tasco became the councilwoman from the 9th Councilmatic District, Marion Johnson has been her zoning specialist as well as legislative aide. And whereas in that position, Ms. Johnson served as the trusted advisor to and representative of Councilwoman Tasco, meeting with constituents, visiting sites, and attending meetings during her homework, before letters to and appearances before the zoning board adjustment, and overall providing fair, informed, and diligent input on zoning applications by engaging citizens, community, organizations, neighbors, members, and staff of the Zoning Board of Adjustment and the City Planning Commission, in addition to her other stakeholders, in a process of open conversation and consensus building. Whereas after decades working under the previous antiquated zoning code, Mrs. Johnson lent her vast land use and community experience as an appointee to the Zoning Code Commission, helping to craft a new code written through compromise by representatives from all parties interested in the process, and meant to accommodate modern needs and uses, thus leaving a lasting mark on the city and its zoning processes. Whereas Ms. Johnson has contributed to her community in additional ways, including as the executive committee person of the 49th Democratic Ward, president of the Concerned Citizens of Logan, a member of Barrett Recreation Center Advisory Council, and block leader responsible for organizing cleanup days and block parties in her neighborhood. And whereas Ms. Johnson is an active and committed member of True Faith Missionary Baptist Church, where she serves as one of the mothers of the church, and from which she ministers to friends and neighbors in Logan and beyond. And whereas Ms. Johnson is proud of the many accomplishments of her family, which includes her 5 daughters, 8 grandchildren, and 7 of great-grandchildren. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Philadelphia that we recognize and acknowledge Marion Johnson for her contributions as zoning specialist for Councilwoman Marion Tasco and for her lifelong public service in the 9th Councilmanic District and to the City of Philadelphia on the occasion of her retirement. Further resolved that an engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to Marion Johnson as an expression of the sincere sentiments of this legislative body. And may I add, one person is missing, and that was one of her daughters, Brenda, who passed away some years ago, but was a tireless worker right along with her mother. So Marion, thank you for being a good parent, good grandparent, good great-grandparent, and also great citizen of the City of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Chair recognizes Ms. Johnson for remarks, and thank you so much for your years of service.
Good morning to everyone.
Morning.
And thank you, President, for allowing me to take a few moments at the speaker. I'll be very brief. My family's here, and they usually give me this sign. I don't want that to happen today. But first and foremost, I want to say that I thank God for my presence here today, and I thank God for allowing me to arrive at this date. I don't know how much longer it'll be, but at least I'm here, and I'm standing here 82 years of age. And so I thank God for giving me my strength and giving me a beautiful family, and I'm the queen of my family, and that's what keeps me going. But I do want to just point out a few facts. One is that when I did join the staff of Councilwoman Marion Tasco, she being a taskmaster, as I think most of you all know now from knowing her, she gave you an assignment, and she didn't spend 2 or 3 hours for you having a training session at that point and knowing what you were expected to go out and do. You could come and ask a few questions, but it wasn't an ongoing thing. And so I picked that up right away, and I decided and said to myself, you're going to be a zoning specialist when you leave this office. And so I do feel very honored to say that I've been able to work for Councilwoman Marion Tasco all these years and work with her because we did become family. And also the same thing with my staff. It's not just me as an individual. We are a team. And that's how I've been effective to service the constituents, because it took a whole team of us, not just Mary. But I do say that one thing I also am extremely happy about is the fact that I had the opportunity to be exposed to being assigned to be the zoning staff person in the councilwoman's office, because it then tuned me into knowing what zoning was all about, that it alerts you that you must pay attention when you see those signs, because that's a way for you having input in something that's being proposed that may change your quality of life. It may impact on it either in a negative way or a positive way. So it also educated me while I did my job. And I must say that I love doing zoning. I enjoy my job. And some people have questioned me as to why aren't you off taking trips? I don't have to take trips. I trip at home a lot with my family. And I love it. I enjoy my family. I could not have achieved any of these acclimates that you all are giving me today if I had not had the tight family, and they're sitting out there. And President, I'm going to end it real soon, but I want to give them their full credit, because I have a family and I feel like I'm rich. I don't have Cadillacs, I don't have mansions and all of that, but I have beautiful family who loves me, and I'm the queen in my home. I birthed 5 daughters. I raised them the old-fashioned way like my mom raised me. I didn't have any boys, but you know what? I have 2 wonderful son-in-laws, and I feel like I birthed 2 wonderful sons. So I have no reason that I should stand here today and not give thanks to God first and foremost, and to my family, and to my co-workers, and to the councilwoman who has put her confidence in me, and I made every effort not to let her down. And in closing, so that I'm not in trouble with my pastor, Pastor Herb Luss II, who is the pastor of Greater Exodus Baptist Church at Broad and Fairmount Avenue. And I love that church. I belong there, and we're like family there. That's really where my membership is. However, because True Faith Missionary Baptist Church is in the community and they always respond to us when we need a place to bring the community together, I work hand in hand with them. So I'm extra proud to say that I have not only one church to go to, but I have 2. So I don't want to be in hot water with my pastor when I get back to church. All right? So I thank you all for taking the time out to be here today. And I certainly have digested all of the words that you have put out here today about me, and I promise that I will continue to try to live up to it. I won't just be at the end of doing zoning, because zoning is an ongoing process. So I just thank Councilwoman for allowing me to have the opportunity to get the kind of training that I needed to have. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Council will be at ease. And I'd ask the council members after the picture with Ms. Johnson, if they please stay up. We have one more picture we need to take. Thank you.
which happens to be Central, and was given the task of singing a presentation to Pope Francis. When he did so, with only 5 minutes' notice, he stunned the world, and Mark Walburn called his voice a voice of an angel. I want to present to some and reacquaint to others young Bobby Hill and welcome him to City Council. Furthermore, for the record, please know that his goals, he's on his way to New York, is it, after this? His goal is to play at the Met, to be on Broadway, but when I asked him to sing before members of City Council after stunning the Pope, he was slightly intimidated. So welcome him once again to our chambers.
Good? You good? Guys, thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. If I can be attention, folks. Just kind of, thank you. The next order is communications. The chair requests that the Sergeant of Arms delivers the messages from the mayor to the chief clerk. Thank you. Mr. Decker, would you please read those messages?
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am today transmitting to the Council the recommendation of the City Planning Commission on the following matter: approval of the proposed live hotel and casino Philadelphia master plan. And I am pleased to advise you that on October 14, 2015, I signed the following bill, which was passed by Council at a session on October 1, 2015, Bill number 150496A. And I am transmitting for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the 45th and Sansom urban renewal area identified by house numbers and street addresses as 4611, 4612 through 20, 4613, 4619, 46, and 4621 Sansom Street, 125, 127 through 29, and 133 through 35 South 46th Street. And an ordinance to amend the Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by removing certain expired provisions and revising certain provisions, including definitions, administration, overlay zoning districts, use regulations, development standards, parking and loading, and signs. And an ordinance authorizing the Public Property Commissioner to acquire, by purchase, condemnation, or otherwise title in some or all of the parcels of land together with the improvements thereon, situate commonly known as 351 through 55 West Penn Street and 5322 through 34 Newhall Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. You have any additional communications?
I have none, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I offer one bill and one non-privileged resolution. I said revolution. One non-privileged resolution, and I wish to be recognized after the title of the vacant property resolution is read for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing Metal Chestnut to construct on and maintain various right-of-way encroachments at 4700 Chestnut Street.
That bill will be referred to committee.
And a non-privileged resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the 45th and Sansom urban renewal area identified by house numbers and street addresses as 4611 Sansom Street, 4612 through 20 Sansom Street, 4613, 4619, 4620, and 4621 Sansom Street.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit consideration of the resolution on today's final passage calendar. Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to allow first reading and final passage today, this session of council. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution will be on today's final passage calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I offer two bills, one on your behalf and one on behalf of the administration.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Section 9605 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Towing by clarifying when storage fees can be charged and accrued.
That bill will be referred to the appropriate committee.
And an ordinance to amend Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by removing certain expired provisions and revising certain provisions including definitions, administration, overlay zoning districts, use regulations, development standards, parking and loading, and signs.
That bill will also be referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Tasco.
Mr. President, I offer one privileged resolution and one resolution on your behalf.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
A privileged resolution recognizing and acknowledging Marion Johnson for her contributions as zoning specialist for Councilwoman Marion Tasco and for her lifelong public service in the 9th Councilmanic District.
And that resolution will be on today's final passage calendar.
And a privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia City Council to hold hearings to evaluate the online tax lien auction implemented by the Department of Revenue.
That will also be in this week's final passage calendar. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Decker. The chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I have two bills and one non-privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising requirements in Section 14405 SP and Entertainment Special Purpose District.
Refer to committee.
And an ordinance authorizing the procurement commissioner to enter into agreements to purchase electricity, natural gas, and motor fuel for use by the city in facilities and vehicles, including agreements that obligate payment for delivery of such energy supplies in future fiscal years.
And that will be referred to committee.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to such city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 36th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
That will be on next week's final passage calendar. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one bill, one non-privileged resolution, and a privileged resolution on behalf of Councilman O.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 92200 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Expediters by revising the rules, obligations, and procedures pertaining to expediter licenses.
Will be referred to committee.
And a privilege resolution recognizing and commemorating the 75th annual membership meeting and luncheon of the Pan American Association of Philadelphia.
Today's final passage calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to such city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 7th, 19th, 37th, and 42nd wards of the City of Philadelphia.
Next week's final passage calendar. And the chair recognizes Councilman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Good.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll offer one resolution on your behalf.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution authorizing the Philadelphia City Council to hold hearings to investigate the progress of the Income Inequality Initiative implemented by the Department of Revenue.
And that will be on this week's final passage calendar. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. I offer one privilege resolution co-sponsored by Councilwoman Marion Tasco.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
A privilege resolution recognizing and congratulating Health Partners Plans on the occasion of its 30th anniversary.
That will be on this week's final passage calendar. And chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Mr. President, I offer one privileged resolution co-sponsored by Reynolds Brown, O'Brien, Wilson, Good.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution recognizing and honoring 14-year-old Bobby Hill for stunning the world with his impromptu a cappella rendition of Andrew Lloyd Webber's P. Jesu for Pope Francis at the recent Festival of Families concert in Philadelphia.
That'll be on this week's final passage calendar. The chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer one bill.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance authorizing the Public Property Commissioner to acquire by purchase, condemnation, or otherwise title in some or all of the parcels of land together with the improvements thereon, situate commonly known as 351 through 55 West Penn Street and 5322 through 34 New Hall Street.
And that will be referred to committee. That concludes the introduction of bills and resolutions. Our next order of business is reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a report from the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee of the Whole reports one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee of the Whole, to which is referred Bill Number 140056, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 2300 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Compensation and Benefits, by providing for the salary of the Majority Deputy Whip of Council. Respectfully reports it as considered the same and returns the attached bill to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of Council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 140056.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 140056. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. And this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. Chair now recognizes Councilman Good for a report from the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Appropriations reports one bill for favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
The Committee on Appropriations, to which is referred Bill Number 150612, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing Transfers and Appropriations for Fiscal Year 2016 within the General Fund from the City Council to the Director of Finance, contribution to the school district. Respectfully reports that it is considered the same and returns the attached bill to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Good.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 150612.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 150612. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilman Jones for a report from the Committee of Public Safety.
Thank you again, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Safety reports one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
The Committee on Public Safety, to which is referred Bill Number 150009, entitled An Ordinance Amending Title 21 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Miscellaneous, by establishing a policy of posting all missing and endangered persons alerts on city websites and social media sites, all under certain terms and conditions. Respectfully reports that it is considered and amended the same and returns the attached bill to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Yes, I move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 150009.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 150009. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. And that bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. And that concludes our reports on committee. The next order of business is consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee have been deemed to have had a first reading. They will be on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. And I believe there are no additional bills on the first reading. So the chief clerk will please read any other bills. We have any other bills on the first reading, Mr. Decker?
Bill Number 150571, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing Liberty Property, 18th and Arch, to install, own, and maintain 2 newsstands on the 1800 block of Arch Street, and to construct, use, and maintain conduits in, under, and across Arch Street for the purpose of supplying electrical, telephone, water, and sewer service to the newsstands. And Bill Number 150648, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing Jeffrey Tubbs to construct, own, and maintain an urban topiary at 1225 through 33 North 3rd Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. The chair agrees, and these bills will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. Chair now recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion concerning the bills and resolutions on the second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to considering the following bills on second reading and final passage calendars. Number 150058, 150059, 150539, 150574, 150602, 150605, 150616, 150647, 150663, 150664, 150665, 150671, 150706, 150707, and 150644.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda. Consider the bills just read by Councilman Jones. All those in favor indicate, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion, ayes have it. The motion carries, and we will consider the consent agenda shortly. Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on a regular second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you again, Mr. President. In addition to the resolutions and bills being considered for the consent agenda, the following resolutions and bills are being called up from second reading and final passage calendars today. Numbers 150750, 150751, 150752, 150758, 140519, AAA. All other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you. Before considering the agenda today, we will have our public comment session. The public comment session will go as follows. If you are interested in testifying on a bill or resolution on the final passage calendar today, if you have not already done so, I ask that you sign up to the table to my left. When your name is called, you will go to the podium in the middle of the council chambers. There's a device and a microphone. And on that device, when the light turns green, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. And when the light turns red, we ask that you please adhere to the guidelines and conclude your remarks. We have 3 minutes. We have a little bit of a different twist today. We have a significant number of individuals testifying on the same bill. The rules in City Council allow and encourage, in the event that same subject matter, that we limit the number of individuals testifying on that same bill. I would attempt to do that, but we want to be fair. I'm going to ask Mr. Decker to do this because we want to have a balanced approach, but we're not going to do 20 people for the same bill. Mr. Decker, if you can quickly read the names of the individuals who have signed up, and if those individuals can say support or oppose. I'm not sure who supports or opposes these bills. Is that a reasonable way? All right, I'm open for another suggestion. All right, I'll do it. Okay, figure out how we're going to do this. All right, this is what I'm going to do. A little out of the norm. I'm going to call your names, and if you could just say, raise your hand, well, actually say you support or you oppose, because I'm trying to have a balanced approach to allowing individuals to testify. Mr. Spieloff? Support. Ms. Fadulin? Radanitsky? Support. All right. Ms. Rosen? All right. Audrey Tackman? David Alperin? And Zalat? I'm sorry. Support? Okay. And Joe Schiavo? All right. Ms. Goodwin? Not opposed? All right. I forgot. I should know that I represent Center City. All right. Ms. Fernandez? Support? Okay. Thank you. Brad, Dake, support. All right, this may be easier than I thought. Matt Olesh. All right, Lauren Vitas. Kevin Brown. Steve Zellinger. Support. And Isaac Parker. All right, so I don't have any opposition. So, because this is a democracy, what I would ask, we'll call 5 names at a time, and since everyone is in support, if the 5 names, one person out of that group can speak on behalf, because everybody's on board. I don't want to take an hour. Everybody telling us we're on board. Lauren, you want to speak for everybody? All right. Let's put that on the record that Ms. Vitas has
I'm gonna,
indicated that she is authorized to speak for everybody.
I did not say. I hopefully am authorized to speak for everybody. My name is Lauren Vitas. I'm here on behalf of the South of South Neighborhood Association, but we do have a diverse group of folks here, including a lot of business owners in Center City and along our commercial corridors, as well as residents on both sides of South Street. And we really wanted to come here today to sort of counter a lot of the negative comments that have been made about this bill. This is a bill that has been in the process for a year and a half. This is a bill that we've worked on and spent a considerable number of hours with the Planning Commission, with the councilman's staff. So I'd like to thank you, Council President Clark, Councilman Squilla, the bill sponsor, and Councilman Johnson for your patience. This is a bill that has gone through a number of amendments, as you can see by the AAA. We think it strikes a very good balance between supporting the density and bringing new businesses and new folks into Center City, while at the same time respecting the context of the residential neighborhoods and blocks within the city. So my organization is in strong support of the bill. South Street West Civic Association is also represented here. South Street West Business Association is also represented here. And as I said, a number of business owners. If other folks want to come up and say their support, that's great. But thank you guys, and hopefully we have a 17-0 vote on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vitas. Let the record reflect. Let the record reflect that Ms. Vitas was authorized to speak on behalf of all 20 of the individuals who indicated that they would like to speak in support of this particular bill. Let the record also reflect that there is no one who has signed up today to speak on the public comment in opposition of that bill. All right, so it's like that record to reflect that. Thank you very much. And there is no other name on the list for any other subject matter. So that being said, we will now move forward to our calendar. And I'd ask that Mr. Decker please read the title of 150750. No. What do you have, Mike? What do you have? That's what I have next. You want to do that first? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. We will now consider the consent agenda. I'd ask that Mr. Decker please read the titles of all the bills on the consent agenda. After each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the bill on the consent agenda. Upon such an objection, without debate, the bill will be immediately removed from the consent agenda and placed on our regular final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, if you can please now read the titles of the bills on the consent agenda.
Bill number 150058, entitled An Ordinance Establishing Parking Regulations in the Vicinity of Camac Street, both sides 2 Avenue to Olney Avenue, Church Lane East Side, Ogontz Avenue to Limekiln Pike, Westmoreland Street, both sides 16th Street to 17th Street. And Bill number 150059, entitled An Ordinance Establishing Parking Regulations in the Vicinity of Carlisle Street and Westmoreland Street, Evergreen Avenue and Ardley Street, Evergreen Avenue and Anderson Street, Schoolhouse Lane and Germantown Avenue, Gravers Lane and Germantown Avenue, Sydenham Street and Tioga Street. And Bill number 150539, entitled An Ordinance Repealing an Ordinance, Bill number 120396, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing Northern Liberties Auction to construct, use, and maintain various encroachments within the right-of-way on the north sidewalk of Spring Garden Street between North 3rd Street and Bodine Street. And Bill number 150574, entitled An Ordinance Amending Section 2 of an Ordinance, Bill number 130355, approved June 17, 2013, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Plotting upon a portion of City Plan number 58 of a 2 feet wide area for public pedestrian use extending along the southerly side of Pearl Street from 10th Street to a point approximately 138 feet westwardly therefrom, by extending the period for compliance with the terms and conditions stated therein. And Bill number 150602, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing 1919 Market to construct, own, and maintain various right-of-way encroachments at 1919 Market Street. And Bill number 150605, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Plotting upon a portion of City Plan number 41S of a right-of-way for sewer and drainage purposes approximately 30 feet by 25 feet in the area lying north of Patterson Avenue and east of the Delaware Expressway. And Bill number 150616, entitled an ordinance authorizing the striking from City Plan number 13S and abandoning of a certain right-of-way reserved for gas main purposes, which extends from 4th Street to 5th Street, north of Dickinson Street. And Bill number 150647, entitled an ordinance authorizing Stacy Reed, owner and operator of the newsstand located on the southwest corner of Broad and Vine Street, to construct, use, and maintain conduits in, under, and across the southwest corner of Broad and Vine Street for the purpose of supplying electrical service and telephone service to the newsstand. And Bill number 150663, entitled an ordinance authorizing the installation of all-way stop signs at the intersection of Claret Street and Shellmeyer Avenue. And Bill number 150664, entitled an ordinance authorizing the installation of all-way stop signs at the intersection of Claret Street and Font Street. And Bill number 150665, entitled an ordinance authorizing the installation of all-way stop signs at the intersection of Millbrook Road and Kipling Lane. And Bill number 150671, entitled an ordinance authorizing the construction of sewer and appurtenant work in existing rights-of-way required to alleviate unsanitary conditions in portions of East Gravers Lane and East Abington Avenue. And Bill number 150706, entitled an ordinance authorizing the paving of Bucknell Street from Oxford Street to Jefferson Street, 23rd Street from Oxford Street to Jefferson Street, and Bolton Street from Kroski Street to 23rd Street. And Bill number 150707, entitled an ordinance authorizing the construction of a sewer and appurtenant work in a proposed right-of-way required to alleviate unsanitary conditions in portions of Waterloo Street and West Houston Street. And Bill number 150644, entitled an ordinance amending Section 91302 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Home Inspection License, to add required conduct for home inspectors, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. These bills have been read on 2 different days. The question for each bill now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, please call the roll. And upon being called, each council member shall vote aye on each of the bills, nay on each of the bills, or indicate those bills for which the member is voting aye and those bills for which the member is voting nay. Mr. Decker?
Councilwoman Bass? Councilwoman Blackwell? Councilman Good? Councilman Greenlee? Councilman Heenan? Councilman Johnson? Councilman Jones? Councilman O'Brien? Councilman O'Neill? Councilman O? Councilwoman Gonzalez Sanchez? Councilwoman Reynolds Brown? Councilman Squilla? Councilwoman Tasco? Council President Clark?
Aye on all bills. A majority of all members having voted in the affirmative for each of the bills on the consent agenda are passed. We can now consider the resolutions and bills on the regular second reading and final passage calendar. And Mr. Decker, I'd ask that you read the title of 150750.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to serve city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situate in the 24th and 51st wards of the city of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. And Resolution 150750 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 150751.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to serve city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 37th ward of the city of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those opposed, ayes have it, and Resolution 150751 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 150752.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to serve city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 29th ward of the city of Philadelphia.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and Resolution 150752 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 150758.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to serve city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 39th ward of the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution. Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 150758 is approved. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 140519 AAA.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by amending Section 14502 to further provide for requirements within the Center City Overlay District.
Thank you. This bill has been read on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Good. Councilman Greenlee. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Brien. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Coronel Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squillo. Councilwoman Tasco. Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 15 and nays are 0. Majority of members. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the 45th and Sanson urban renewal area identified by house numbers and street addresses as 4611, 4612 through 20, 4613, 4619, and 4621 Sansom Street, introduced by Councilwoman Blackwell.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and acknowledging Marion Johnson for her contributions to as zoning specialist for Councilwoman Marion B. Tasco and for her lifelong public service in the 9th Councilmanic District, introduced by Councilwoman Tasco.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Tasco.
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia City Council to hold hearings to evaluate the online tax lien auction implemented by the Department of Revenue, introduced by Councilwoman Tasco on behalf of Council President Clark.
Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee. Was it introduced by me?
Councilwoman Tasco on behalf of Council President Clark.
Tasco. I thought you said. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Tasco again.
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and commemorating the 75th annual membership meeting and luncheon of the Pan American Association of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Sanchez on behalf of Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kunis. Oh, Councilman O's back. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you, Council President. On behalf of Councilwoman Maria Quino Sanchez and myself, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is also adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia City Council to hold hearings to investigate the progress of the Home Inequality Initiative implemented by the Department of Revenue, introduced by Councilman Good on behalf of Council President Clark.
Chair recognizes Councilman Good.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and congratulating Health Partners Plans on the occasion of its 30th anniversary, introduced by Councilwoman Brown.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring 14-year-old Bobby Hill for stunning the world with his impromptu a cappella rendition of Andrew Lloyd Webber's P. Jesu for Pope Francis at the recent Festival of Families concert in Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Mr. President, I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Are there any speeches on the part of the minority? Any speeches on the part of the majority? And Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. On this Saturday, October the 17th, at FDR Park, 7:30 a.m., I will be partnering with the Speranza Human Compassion Project for our walk against domestic violence, and so I encourage everyone to come on out and to participate. Two, just want to clarify for the record, today we also introduced the second half of the casino legislation that's proposed for the 2nd Councilmanic District. As the council person in the 2nd Councilmanic District, I will continue investigating the allegations of racial discrimination, as well as the issues surrounding diversity with the Cordish Company, as well as the overall quality of life issues as relates to the new casino proposal for the 2nd Councilmatic District. And those hearings will take place sometime next month. But also just want to clarify my acquaintance with the Cordish Company, which has been operating in the 2nd Councilmatic District since 2012. And so just as a prudent councilman would operate with any other business throughout the 2nd Councilmatic District, obviously you will develop a working relationship with the company prior to this proposal. And so just want to clarify that for the record for all of my supporters who may have some questions and comments and concerns regarding my role in the process of the actual casino project, and we will address all of those issues and concerns at the appropriate hearing. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. There are no others. Oh, sorry. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Tasker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to announce that on Saturday morning at 10 a.m., my state representative, Sherelle Parker, will host a property tax and deed workshop at Finley Recreation Center. And we invite all, particularly the people in the 9th Councilmatic District or the 200th Legislative District. Just anybody can come.
Right.
All right, they need to know the information. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman. There being no additional speeches on behalf of the minority and the majority, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, October 22nd, 2015 at 10 a.m.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Council stand adjourned until Thursday, October 22nd, 2015, 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, thank you all very much.